Welcome to the Royal Canal Greenway, a long-distance off-road walking and cycling trail connecting Maynooth with Longford Town. The 130-kilometre trail passes through lush green landscapes of Ireland's ancient east towards the mighty River Shannon in Ireland's hidden heartlands. Well, this morning we're on the Royal Canal towpath once again, having begun at Centre Parks in Ballymahon. We're going to cycle on here for 20 or 30 k's in each direction. It's a gorgeous morning. It's 16 degrees, blue skies. The Royal Canal is a 200-year-old trading and passenger line between Dublin City and County Longford. The Longford Town branch was opened in 1830. The canal opened up Dublin-based marketplaces to rural businesses such as mills, mines and animal markets. At its peak in the 1840s, the canal moved 100,000 tonnes of cargo and over 40,000 passengers per year. Many of those were immigrants looking for a brighter future elsewhere. Now it's been a week and a half since we saw the golden orb in the sky, and this morning the gods have come and bestowed upon us such a delightful object. The countryside looks beautiful, everything is so still, and once again colour has returned to the Emerald Isle landscape. Blue skies above. The Royal Canal on my right hand side. As we cycle on, we'll be meeting many historic stone bridges. So this is what I call enjoying the great outdoors. Walked 11.7 kilometres this morning with Bailey, and now going to do about 56, 58, 59 kilometres on two wheels. So bring it on. The Royal Canal Greenway is 130 kilometres long, off-road walking and cycling trail connecting Maynooth with Cloondarra and Longford Town. The Greenway is the original towpath that was used by horses pulling boats on the Royal Canal. Just over 40 kilometres of the Greenway is in County Longford. It is suitable for most walkers and cyclists. Canals were the motorways of their time. Since there were no steam-driven engines, canals and towpaths were designed for barges and cargo boats that were pulled by draft horses. Can you guess how long it would take a 60-ton barge pulled by two horses to get to the markets in Dublin? The answer is 5 to 6 days. Smaller passenger boats called flyboats were lighter and took only 20 hours to make the journey. The canal was in operation for nearly 30 years when purchased in 1845 by the Midland Great Western Railway. It planned to drain the canal and build a rail line on or near it. However, this did not happen. The last transportation of goods was in the early 1950s, and the canal was officially closed in 1961. It fell into disrepair until local community groups campaigned to have the Royal Canal restored. The Greenway between Longford Branch Junction and Longford Town has been restored, with future plans to restore the canal for navigation. Canals were built by hand by labourers, originally known as navigators. Over time, they became known as navvies. The route was initially dug by hand, then layers of clay were pressed into place to line or seal the canal walls. Locally sourced materials, such as limestone for the bridges and ash from the rock gates, were used. Temporary forges were built to construct the iron parts required for the lock gates. As you explore the Greenway, look at your immediate surroundings. Try to imagine the navvies digging the canal route by hand. Boggy soil was one of the problems that the navvies had to deal with. Well, we're here on the Royal Canal Greenway, and we've just passed through Longford Bridge on my way to the next lock, which is just up ahead. Beautiful sight in absolutely stunning weather. Each lockkeeper who operated a lock was accommodated with a two-roomed cottage. The majority of cottages were identical. When the canal closed, those residing in the cottages were given the opportunity to purchase them, whilst others fell into major disrepair. We've arrived here at Lock 40, the 40th lock on the Royal Canal, and it's located here at Mullawernia, not far from Abbeyshrew here in County Longford. This location is on the westward stretch of the canal as it approaches the River Shannon, and it is marked by accommodation bridge adjacent to the lock structure. Lock gates enables boats to travel safely through water levels of different heights. This allows for boats to go up or down slight inclines. Once the boat is locked into the lock chamber, the water within the chamber is raised or lowered accordingly. Lock number 40 is officially known as MacLaughlin's Lock number 40 and is a minor waterways place on the Royal Canal main line between Royal Longford Junction with the Longford branch. This is a lock with a rise of 10 feet 1 inch. As well as being on the Royal Canal Greenway, you are also on the National Famine Way. The National Famine Way is 165-kilometre walking trail from Strokestown House in County Roscommon to the Epic Museum in Dublin. The trail follows the journey made by 1,490 people in 1847 who were forced to emigrate from Strokestown in County Roscommon. Over 2/3 of these immigrants were children. Many of the structures are accommodation bridges built for a private road to pass over or to accommodate farmers whose fields were divided by the construction of the canal. Most bridges are humpbacked and with a single arch, made from local limestone and sandstone with cut stone detailing. The majority of these bridges are well over 200 years old and are of similar design, except for some newer additions. Each bridge has a name. Some have plaques with the name on it, and some have the year of construction. The bridges are named after directors, engineers, stakeholders and townlands through which the canal flows. Well folks, in absolutely glorious sunlight, sunshine, clear blue skies, cloudless to the horizon, cycling along at 31.2 kilometers an hour on the side of the Royal Canal. We're completing another stage. Did one the other day from Ballymahan all the ways to Abbeyshrew. We take up the next leg this morning. And the weather today is just unbelievable and ideal for taking on another stage of the Royal Canal Greenway. A long ways from home, of course, but we won't worry about that. Kate and I will travel to these extremities to fulfill the ambition and make the dream happen. It's called Life is for Living in the Great Outdoors. And you don't have to belong to the Millionaire Club to partake and complete days of adventure like this. Coming up now to another beautiful stone bridge over this peaceful and tranquil Royal Canal on my right. If you get a chance to, and you're into your cycling, pack your bags and your bike and come up to Ballymahan and base yourself there for a few days. Kate and I will complete all stages eventually from Ballymahan or Abbeyshrew, Clondara, all the ways down to Maynooth. Eventually, not today. The Royal Canal is at its highest point near Mullingar. From there it descends through 20 locks to Richmond Harbour. There are a total of 46 locks on the Royal Canal. 8 of those are in County Longford. I have been asked since I began editing this video. The question was, why are so many of the bridge walls curved? Well, simple answer. By curving the walls, the ropes which were attached to the horses could move easily around the corner when the horse was crossing from one side of the canal to the other. They also avoided having to unhitch the horse when crossing a bridge. Now, as we travel close to the village of Keena here in County Longford, we're travelling very, very close to the Corlea trackway. Today, on this trip, we're not going to venture and deviate to have a look at it. But the Corlea trackway is known locally as the Danes Road, and it was constructed from oak planks in 148 to 147 BC, making it contemporary with the siege of Carthage. The trackway, in an area which is the site of industrial-scale mechanised peat harvesting by Bord na Móna, principally to supply the peat-fired power stations of the Electricity Supply Board. While today a generally flat and open landscape, in the Iron Age it was covered by bog, quicksand and ponds, surrounded by dense woodlands of birch, willow, hazel and alder, while higher ground was covered by oak and ash. The terrain was dangerous and impassable for much of the year. In 1984, timbers recovered from Corlea were radiocarbon dated to the Iron Age rather than the Bronze Age as it had been expected, and an archaeological project was established under the leadership of Professor Barry Raftery to investigate the site before it was destroyed by peat digging. Excavations then in 1991 in Corlea Bog revealed 59 tokers in an area of around 125 hectares, and further work has raised the total to 108, with a further 75 in the nearby Derry Oakhill Bog. In 1755, Thomas Williams and John Cooley made a survey to find a suitable route for a man-made waterway across North Leinster from Dublin to the Shannon. They originally planned to use a series of rivers and lakes, including the Boyne, the Blackwater, Deal, Yellow, Camlin and Inny, and Loch Derravara. A disgruntled director of the Grand Canal Company sought support to build a canal from Dublin to Clondara on the Shannon in West County Longford. Work on this massive project commenced in May 1790 at Cross Guns Bridge, Phibsborough, in a westerly direction towards Ashtown. This is commemorated in the plaque beneath the keystone of Ranelagh Bridge. In Samuel Watson's The Gentleman's and Citizen's Almanac for the year 1792, it was noted that the Court of Directors for the Royal Canal met at 1 Dawson Street every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock to discuss matters. At that stage it was intended that the canal would have branches to or near Trim, Kells at Boy and Castletown, Delvin. In 1817, 27 years after it began, the canal reached the Shannon. The total cost of construction was £1,421,954. Building was unexpectedly expensive, and the project was ridden with problems. In 1794, the Royal Canal Company was declared bankrupt. The Duke of Leinster, a board member, insisted that the new waterway take in his local town of Maynooth. The builders had to deviate from the planned route. This necessitated the construction of a deep sinking between Blanchardstown and Clonsilla. The diversion also called for the building of the Roywater Aqueduct at Leixlip. In 1796, the canal reached Kilcock and trade commenced. 2 passenger boats, the Camden and the Phelan, went into service on the 2nd of December 1796. In the late 1820s, as the quality of roads in Ireland improved, road carriers such as Bianconi's coach and car service began to compete with the canal as an affordable alternative public transport option. By the 1830s, the canal carried 80,000 tons of freight and 40,000 passengers a year. In May 1840, during the Great Famine, tenants of Major Dennis Mahon left his Strokestown Park estate in County Roscommon. The tenants, who would become known locally as the Missing One 490, had been offered the choice of immigration with assisted passage, starvation on their blighted potato farms, or a place in the local workhouse. Weakened by starvation, the 1,490 walked for days along the towpaths of the Royal Canal to Dublin, where they were put on boats to Liverpool, and from there travelled to Quebec on 4 coffin ships, cargo vessels that were also ironically loaded with grain from Ireland, and were unsuitable for passengers. It is estimated that half of the emigrants died before reaching Quebec. This was the largest single exodus of tenants during the famine. Mahon was assassinated in November 1847 after news reached Roscommon about the fate of his former tenants. An annual walk on the canal banks commemorates these events. Competition from the railways gradually eroded the canal's business, and by the 1880s, annual tonnage was down to about 30,000, and the passenger traffic had all but disappeared. The canal had a brief resurgence during World War II, when horses and barges returned. CIE took over the canal in 1944. As rail and road traffic increased, the canal fell into disuse. In 1951, 1 boat was left using the canal commercially, which ceased in July of that year. A decade later, in 1961, CIE closed the navigation on the canal and placed a dam across it 3 miles west of Mullingar, thereby cutting off the main water supply to the western section. In 1974, volunteers from the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland formed the Royal Canal Amenity Group to save the canal. By 1990, they had 74 kilometres of canal from the 12th lock in Blanchardstown to Mullingar open, again for navigation. In 2000, the canal was taken over by Waterways Ireland, a cross-border body charged with administering Ireland's inland navigations. On October the 1st, 2010, the whole length of the canal was formally opened. Well folks, we're still on the saddle, or in the saddle, whichever way you want to say it, and we're still traversing the Royal Canal Greenway. It's an absolutely stunning afternoon. It's getting late in the evening now. We pulled in there to a little obscure pub/restaurant right in the heart of Ireland, and had some beverage for lunch and a pint, and I can tell you it went down very, very well indeed, and the company was divine, and it was a quaint establishment. When we finish this section today, we'll have cycled just under 47 kilometers. So that's a good day's work under our belts. The canal passes through Maynooth, Kilcock, Enfield, Longwood, Mullingar and Ballymahon, and has a spur to Longford. The total length of the main navigation is 145 kilometres, which is around 90 miles, and has a system of 46 locks. There is one main feeder from Loch Owl, which enters the canal at Mullingar. I have been asked if the Royal Canal Greenway is a challenging route. Well, the trail is easy and flat, perfect for walkers, runners and cyclists of all ages. The challenge lies in the distance, with access points approximately every 10 kilometres, letting you choose how challenging you want your journey to be. The towpath Greenway has a mix of surfaces, about half bound asphalt and half bound compacted gravel. Asphalt is more common in town areas and around bridges and access points. Following the edge of the 225-year-old Royal Canal Greenway, the trail showcases old stone bridges and aqueducts. Keep in mind there are soft edges with reeds, some areas dropping off into the canal, and occasional steep embankments. Waterways Ireland aims to ensure safe and enjoyable experiences for all who use the Greenway Trail. However, growing trail popularity has led to tensions, such as speeding cyclists and uncontrolled dogs. Guidance is available, however, through the Greenway Code of Conduct, and utilise signage and social media to promote safe and courteous behaviour. You can start your trip on the Greenway at any of the 14 access points along the Royal Canal Greenway, conveniently dividing the 130-kilometre trail. 5 designated trailheads include Maynooth, Enfield, Mullingar, Cloondarra and Longford Town, offer full range of services. While you can begin at any access point, services may be more limited. Whether you are planning a car-free weekend or want to get away from the hustle and bustle of city life for a day, the Royal Canal Greenway has something for everyone. The choice is yours whether to explore the Greenway on foot or cover more ground on two wheels. We suggest that to make the most of your visit to the Greenway, you explore this long-distance trail in shorter sections from the towns of Maynooth, Enfield, Mullingar, Longford and Cloondarra. These sections offer a wide range of accommodation options as well as restaurants and cafes to refuel after a long day's walk or ride on the Royal Canal Greenway. Since the early 19th century, the canal has been maintained by 8 successive agencies. The Royal Canal Company, the Commissioners of Inland Navigation, the New Royal Canal Company, Midland Great Western Railway Company, Great Southern Railways, CIE, the Office of Public Works from 1986, and Waterways Ireland, in addition to the restoration and maintenance by the volunteers of the Royal Canal Amenity Group. In 1845, 15 passengers, including 2 children, were drowned in an incident on the Royal Canal near Clonsilla in Dublin. At approximately 4 p.m. on the 25th November that year, the Royal Canal Company passenger boat Longford, on its way from Dublin to Longford, was steered accidentally into the bank, turned over, and with the weight of 54 passengers suddenly thrown to one side, the boat capsized. The Royal Canal was originally planned to terminate in Dublin at Broadstone to serve the then fashionable area of residence as well as King's Inn and the nearby markets, but it was extended so that now at the Dublin end the canal reaches the Liffey through a wide sequence of dock and locks at Spencer's Dock, with a final sea lock to manage access to the river and sea. The Dublin-Mullingar railway line was built alongside the canal for much of its length. This meandering route of the canal resulted in many speed-limiting curves on the railway. The canal was bought by the Midland Great Western Railway to provide a route to the west of Ireland, the original plan being to close the canal and build the railway along its bed. The Royal Canal is a 144-kilometre long-distance trail that follows the towpath of the canal from Ashtown in Dublin to Cloondarra in County Longford. It is typically completed in 6 days. It is designated as a National Waymarked Trail by the National Trails Office of the Irish Sports Council and is managed by Waterways Ireland. In 2015, Dublin City Council began extending the walkway and cycling route along the Royal Canal from Ashtown to Sheriff Street Upper. The Royal Canal Way connects with the Westmead Way west of Mullingar and will eventually form the eastern end of the Dublin to Galway Greenway, the final part of Eurovelo Route 2, a cycling path from Moscow across Europe to Galway. If you're contemplating walking or perhaps cycling the Royal Canal Greenway, the best and easiest way to view a general map of the Royal Canal Greenway is by downloading the Royal Canal Greenway Guide. And here you will find details of various trailheads and notable points of interest along the path.